My parents kicked me out of the house I bought to let my golden sister live there. Karma hit fast. I'm 37 now, and I've spent the last 15 years climbing the ladder as a senior manager at one of the big investment firms on Wall Street. But this story isn't just about work, it's about my complicated relationship with my sister, Emily, who's 47, and our parents, who are both pushing 80, and the house I just bought for them that stirred up a lot of family drama. Let me take you back to where it all started. My parents were in their late 40s when I came into the world, totally unplanned. My mom would often remind me, without meaning to hurt, that they had Emily, who was 10 then, and she was all they needed. I'd hear, "We didn't plan for you," while she was busy with Emily's piano lessons or college applications. Those comments stuck with me, making me feel like an afterthought in our family from the get-go. If it weren't for my grandparents, I might not have been around. They were thrilled to have another grandchild, even if my parents saw me as unexpected. Every day, my parents would drop me off at my grandparents' place with my dad joking to my grandpa, "You wanted her? She's all yours." My grandparents' house was my real home. They showered me with genuine love and care, picking me up from school, helping with homework, and taking me to the park. My grandpa, who used to be a math professor, spent hours teaching me about numbers, always saying, "Numbers never lie." This stuck with me and influenced my career decisions down the line. Every afternoon at their kitchen table, my grandma would help with my schoolwork, ensuring I understood everything, and taught me cooking as a fun outlet, not just a chore. Her past as a high school teacher showed in how she explained things patiently, often saying, "Knowledge is the one thing nobody can take from you." Evenings were bittersweet. My parents would come to pick me up late, tired from work, but as my grandma hugged me goodnight and said, "Madison, you're the best thing that ever happened to us," I could almost forget the feeling of being unwanted elsewhere. Growing up, I felt like an afterthought at home while Emily prepped for her future. She never acted mean, but she lived in her own world, chatting about boys and college, while I played nearby. The difference in how our parents treated us was glaring. My mom was so proud of Emily's achievements and made sure everyone knew, Emily's straight A's, the debate team, her dream college acceptance, while I often heard, "We're too tired or you understand, right?" when my events came around. Thankfully, my grandparents never missed anything, always cheering me on with pride. When Emily went to college, I thought things might change at home. I was the one left, maybe they'd notice me more. Boy, was I wrong. I was 14 and went from invisible to the housekeeper. My mom would call out for me to clean as soon as I got home from school, and I took on Emily's chores. I became an expert at the washing machine, cleaning, cooking, and taking care of the house, all while feeling like a ghost. My dad would remind me, "You live here, you must contribute," if I ever hesitated. I went from just cleaning to being the cook by 14. One day, my mom flat out stopped making dinner and told me, "You're old enough now. We expect dinner ready when we get home." Despite all the house duties, I kept my grades up. Teachers saw my talent in math and econ and encouraged me to compete academically. My grandpa was my biggest supporter, teaching me complex stuff beyond my grade level. He'd always say, "You have a gift," which kept me motivated through it all. You wouldn't believe the joy in my dad's eyes when he looked at numbers. He'd say, "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Daydreaming about college was my escape from reality. After dinner, once the dishes were clean, I'd head to my room and get lost in educational websites, imagining strolling through campus paths miles away from the endless chores and chilly silences at home. School was kind of my sanctuary. I put in the work and got rewarded with straight A's. By 16, my hard work paid off with acceptance letters from some big-name universities, especially ones known for finance. Then came the big surprise. One Sunday, my sister Emily burst through the door with this tall, spiffy guy, exclaiming, "Mom, Dad, meet James. We're getting married." It was like they'd hit the jackpot. My parents shot up from their seats, my mom was crying happy tears, and my dad was already on the phone spreading the news. "We'll handle everything," Mom said, hugging Emily tight, already planning the perfect wedding. For months, the house was buzzing with wedding talk, guest lists, venues, flowers. Everything was top-notch, money was flowing like there was no tomorrow. My grandparents were at the wedding but didn't seem too thrilled. Grandpa just shook his head at the champagne fountain, and Grandma squirmed at a pricey sculpture. Then the big day arrived, my college acceptances were in the mail. I sat at the dinner table, envelopes in hand, ready to share my excitement. "That's nice," Mom said, her eyes never leaving her plate. "But we can't afford it. Emily's wedding wiped out our savings. Even had to take a loan." I was stunned. "But you paid for Emily's college," I whispered. "That was different," she replied, brushing me off. We saw potential in her. The silence was brutal. Dad chimed in, "Get a job, save up, apply for loans. That's what adults do." Heartbroken, I called my grandparents, tears streaming down as I walked through their familiar door. Grandma and Grandpa exchanged a knowing look. Grandpa took my hand. "Madison, we've been saving for your education since you were born. We kind of expected this." He pulled out a folder with bank statements, years of savings. "Pick any school you want. We've got your back." That night, I packed my bags and moved in with them. When I told my parents I was leaving, they were glued to the TV. "Whatever you think is best," Mom muttered, eyes on the screen. Moving in with my grandparents was life-changing. I decided to study financial analysis at a top business school. Watching my parents' money blunders made me want to do it right. My professors took note of my enthusiasm and knack for finance. I stayed after class to dive deeper into tough concepts. For once, someone other than my grandparents saw my potential. I landed awesome internships at big financial firms. Every summer was a new challenge, and senior managers were impressed with my skills. At a Morgan Stanley review, my boss said, "You've got a knack for this. We'd love to have you back next summer." I stayed focused on my studies, barely giving my family a thought, except for the chats with my grandparents. After graduating, I landed a job with one of the city's biggest financial firms. I never imagined starting off with such a solid salary. I snagged a nice one-bedroom apartment and relished making breakfast just for me. Diving into new challenges, my career soared, bringing bonuses and promotions I'd never dreamed of as a kid. I climbed up to a senior position in 5 short years, managing portfolios and building strong client ties. Within the industry, I became known for my sharp strategy and accuracy. Every success felt like proof that my parents totally underestimated me. Meanwhile, from occasional calls with my grandparents, I learned Emily's marketing gig wasn't going great, and her husband James couldn't hold down a job. They were always borrowing from my parents. Grandma mentioned once, "Your mom emptied her retirement account to help them with rent last month. They just can't say no to her." Things just kept spiraling. Even with my parents' help, Emily and James couldn't keep up with their rent. Eventually, they, along with their 7-year-old twins, couldn't make ends meet. So there I was, back in my old bedroom at my parents' place. They used to rave about my sister Emily's achievements, but now they had to support her whole family along with taking care of their golden child. I kept my distance, focusing on improving myself, both personally and professionally. Every raise, every promotion, every successful deal was a little reminder that I wasn't the disaster my parents once thought I'd be. By my mid-30s, I'd managed to save up quite a bit, enough to secure a comfy down payment on my own house. Then one day, everything took a turn. My grandfather, who was more like a dad to me, passed away suddenly from a massive heart attack. It was a huge blow. He was my rock, the one who always had my back. Not long after, my grandmother, who'd been with him for over 50 years, seemed to just lose her will to go on and passed away within 2 months. They were like my real parents, and losing them so suddenly was tough. I was at the funeral home, getting ready for my grandmother's service, when I heard my mom's voice behind me. "Madison, do you want some help with the arrangements?" she asked, and she looked older and more tired than I remembered. Part of me wanted to tell her to back off, but her expression stopped me. "Sure," I said, kind of to myself, "that would be nice." Over the next few days, as we prepared for the service, my parents started to open up. They admitted they were having problems. One afternoon, picking out flowers, my dad mentioned, "We haven't been doing so well financially since we retired. We're just scraping by," and then started talking about Emily's twins. I realized my sister and her family were still living with them, relying on their dwindling finances. A week after my grandma's funeral, we were in this wood-paneled office for the will reading. Emily and her husband, James, were slumped next to my parents, and I was sitting across from them. The tension in the room was thick, and it smelled of furniture polish and dusty old papers. None of us knew it at that moment, but what happened next would change our family dynamics forever. Mr. Patterson, the notary, adjusted his glasses and started reading in this boring monotone voice. I was expecting the usual legal jargon, but then he said something that grabbed everyone's attention. "To our beloved granddaughter Madison, we leave our house at 1542 Maple Street in the sum of $150,000. The silence that followed was intense. My mom's grip on my dad's arm went white-knuckle tight, and Emily's jaw practically hit the floor. After clearing his throat, Mr. Patterson continued. He turned to my mom and added, "And a personal note from Mr. Henderson to his daughter Margaret, stating, 'Remember, Margaret, we gave you $200,000 right when you needed it most. We hope you respect our final decision as much as we respected your wishes back then.'" My mom's face went from red to ghostly white. Emily and James nervously exchanged glances while my dad just stared at the floor. After the paperwork was done, my parents caught up with me in the parking lot. They seemed anxious, a far cry from their calm during the funeral. My mom's voice was shaky as she said, "Madison, honey, we always assumed we'd inherit the house. We're struggling, and we were counting on it. With our mortgage and Emily's family expenses, we could really use the house," my dad added, running a hand through his gray hair. Emily chimed in about needing a yard for her kids to play in, but I just drove off, needing time to think. The next few weeks were full of reflection about my grandparents' generous inheritance. My life was now based closer to the city, and while their old house was filled with precious memories, it was just too big for me. Meanwhile, I learned more about my parents' financial struggles from our weekly chats. Helping Emily and her family had drained their retirement funds, and they were having a tough time keeping up with their mortgage payments. After giving it a lot of thought, I decided to sell my grandparents' house and use the money, with some of my own, to buy a more manageable, single-story place for my parents, a cozy retirement home with a great garden. When I shared my plan with them, they burst into tears of gratitude. After weeks of searching, we found the perfect spot, a lovely ranch-style house in a calm neighborhood. They couldn't stop talking about how thrilled they were once the deal was done. "We should throw a housewarming party," said my dad. "It's the least we can do to celebrate." "That sounds great," I replied, planning to surprise them with the deed at the party. "Just let me know when." Weeks went by, but even with my busy schedule, I waited for an invite. "Oh, we're still planning," my mom would say. "You know these things take time." My dad would add, "We want it to be perfect. We'll let you know soon." Their vague responses started to bug me. One evening, after another noncommittal phone call from my mom, I found myself typing Emily's name into Facebook. We weren't connected on any social media, and wow, I hadn't seen her profile in forever, and then just a few hours ago, this post pops up. "I'm super excited for my mom and dad's housewarming party this Saturday. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone in their amazing new home. Tons of friends and family have already said they're coming, with the comment section buzzing about caterers and decorations getting ready. This gathering wasn't just thrown together last minute, they've been planning it for weeks." So, I called my mom, feeling a bit anxious. "Hey, Mom, wanted to check on the housewarming party date. Got one set yet?" "Not yet, sweetheart," she said, pretty casually. "Probably in a few weeks. We're still figuring out the logistics, as usual, without me." As Saturday rolled in, I was torn. Should I confront them or just let it slide? How could they leave me out, especially since I helped them get this house? Well, I was about to find out, though not how I expected. I parked a block away from the house I got for them and saw loads of people through the windows: Emily, her friends, and relatives. My dad was giving house tours, and Mom, wearing her best pearls, was greeting everyone at the door. The place was decked out with twinkling lights, banners, and the sounds of laughter and music spilling onto the street. Clearly, they'd spent weeks planning this party I wasn't invited to. I sat in my car for a bit, watching Emily's kids play while grown-ups watched. I noticed boxes with Emily's handwriting stacked in a corner through the bay window. The move was already in motion. I steeled myself and snuck in through the side entrance. The house smelled like flowers and delicious catered food. I followed my dad's voice to the living room, where he was chatting with folks. "After all our hard work, we finally have our dream home," he said. Mom chimed in, "And don't forget about Emily, she helped a lot with the down payment." Such a thoughtful daughter, unlike some people, taking a jab at me for supposedly not helping out, being too focused on my career. Standing there, I felt my face flush. "Actually, I think you got that backwards," I blurted out, making everyone jump. There was a moment of silence before my dad smirked. "Madison, what a surprise, since you didn't get an invite," I said, stepping in. Emily's husband and the twins were all curious over my sudden appearance. "You bought it, but now it's ours. You can't expect endless gratitude," my mom snapped. "That's right," my dad added, gaining some nerve. "And really, you're not welcome here. This is for family." Mom mentioned how Emily's family had already sold their place and were moving in because the twins need stability. I pulled out a folder. "Seems there's some confusion," I said, holding up the ownership papers. "This house is mine. I never signed it over." Mom's face went pale, and Dad started mumbling about family duties. Emily's confident smile faded when she realized her plan was unraveling. My hands shook, but my voice was steady. "I was going to give it to you tonight as a fresh start for us, but now I see nothing's changed." Mom shrieked, "You can't do this. We're your parents. No, I replied softly, you're just the ones who gave birth to me. My real parents, my grandparents, taught me family's more than blood, and also about finances, which is why I own the house. Turning to the guests, I said, sorry, but this party's over. This is my house, and I need everyone to leave. One by one, my parents, Emily, James, the twins, and all their guests left, tears in their eyes. I stood on the porch, watching them go until the street was empty. The party lights still twinkled mockingly. Discarded drinks and plates were everywhere. What was meant to be a peace offering ended up breaking our relationship for good. Weeks later, I learned they had used the money from selling their old place to buy a small apartment, and Emily's family moved in. 3 generations squashed into a 2-bedroom flat. They called me constantly at first, leaving voicemails full of accusations and guilt trips. I eventually blocked all their social media, emails, and numbers. Now, the house stands empty, a constant reminder of everything that went wrong. So, I've got this meeting with a real estate agent tomorrow, but honestly, my mind's stuck on my family drama. You know how some relationships are like those old, dusty photo albums? Better left untouched. I've promised myself that if I ever have kids, they won't have to earn my love like it's some kind of contest. Unlike my parents, I'll love them no matter what, just like my grandparents did. So, here's the kicker, that one Saturday night, I pulled up to the house I'd just bought, thinking I'd be dropping in on my folks' housewarming party. Turns out, I wasn't even on the guest list. The place was buzzing with people, catered food everywhere, and moving boxes scattered around, all marked with my sister Emily's handwriting. My dad proudly announces, we finally got our dream home. While I'm sneaking in through the side. Then, my mom goes on, thanking Emily for supposedly helping out with the down payment. When someone asked where I was, she said, oh, Madison's too busy with her career to bother with family. That right there summed up every insult, every time they favored Emily, every moment they made me feel like an afterthought. Standing in that doorway, I saw them rewriting history, planning to move Emily's family onto my property without even asking. I piped up and said, hey, I think there's been a mix-up about who bought this place. The looks on their faces, shock, shame, and then anger, told me everything I needed to know about how they really felt. My mom, always one to feel entitled, was the first to speak up, what's done is done. The house is ours now, and Emily's family needs space. But I had the documents. Nope, the house is mine, I said, holding up the deed. I was going to give it to you as a gift tonight, but clearly, that's not happening. My mom panicked, trying the whole we're your parents, we have rights routine. I calmly replied, the only rights you have are those I decide to give you. And right now, I'm asking everyone to get off my property. Cue the chaotic exit, people scrambling out, clutching plates of food, Emily's twins crying, while Dad tried to usher everyone out with some dignity. Mom made one last attempt to guilt trip me with, how could you do this to your own family? But I'd found a new kind of strength that kept me from being swayed. In the weeks that followed, they crammed into a tiny apartment, and then the messages started rolling in. Dad wanted to talk it over, Emily pleaded for her kids' sakes, and Mom accused me of being heartless. I blocked them all. The empty house just sat there, a reminder of what might have been, a fresh start, maybe even a chance to mend things, but I knew it wasn't meant to be. I sold the place and used the money for my future. People asked if I'd ever fix things with my family or forgive them, but I realized forgiveness doesn't always mean letting toxic people back into your life. Sometimes, forgiving yourself for leaving is what you need to do. Before tucking away my parents' wedding photos, I promised my future kids they'd never feel unloved or compared to their siblings. With me, that cycle of favoritism and emotional manipulation ends. Driving past my parents' apartment, seeing Emily's twins playing outside, made me a bit sad. But I was mourning relationships that never really existed, not ones I'd lost. Despite what they say about blood being thicker than water, my grandparents taught me real family is about love, respect, and support. I'm taking these lessons into this new chapter of my life. Love should be free, not something you have to earn. Family isn't just about DNA, and sometimes, walking away is the best decision. Deleting my mom's last email unread felt surprisingly freeing. Whatever it said didn't matter, I'd finally learned to value myself over their conditional acceptance. Their idea of family loyalty doesn't fit in the life I'm building now. It's time for new experiences, free from the burden of trying to earn love from people who can't give it unconditionally. Thanks to my grandparents, I know what a true family looks like, and I'm hoping to create that for myself, one based on mutual respect, unconditional love, and knowing everyone's worth. Now, I'm closing the chapter of being an afterthought in my family and starting to write my own story.